There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday. Live on the Buffy Network. YouTube, check us out, subscribe, type in iNews, Roy Blecker. You'll see my nice, smiling, shining face, get our archives, all that good stuff. Of course, we'll join the Mighty Met KMAT at the bottom of the hour. Well, we won't be on this Friday. There's a no balls game, but just in case you need to know that. Man, what a week. This has been. Had the big California debate. We'll get to that in a second. Fuel shortages are going to hit California. It looks like by the first to mid-May, according to Mike Ariza, oil industry expert, and used to work at the recently shut down Benicia refinery. Driver gets suspended for comments in Victory Lane. We'll have the report on that. Things are just getting way too far out of control. But as we said, lead story of the day, California Democrats are running for governor on protecting non-English speaking truckers. How can we get to this kind of stupid? We've had the deaths. Most of them commercial driver's licenses from that. We'll get to that in a second. This is the first clip we have of the day. Top 2 in June made the cut. Let's see if this will play.
If you do not finish in the top 2 on June 2nd, will you endorse your party's nominee? 15 seconds.
The only people who are hurting California are Democrats. It is not Donald Trump. They keep saying Donald Trump because Democrat policies are a dismal failure in California. They have nothing to point to. I'm not going to support my opponent because it's going to be he and I going to November.
There it is. Sheriff Chad supported top 2 in June. He said it's going to be Steve and him going on to November, so he's not going to endorse. He further clarified that in the spin room after the debate. Yes, if it's Steve Hilton against another Democrat, of course he's going to address Steve Hilton. The more important point is Chad Bianco stamped top 2 in June. We love it. We came up with it. It's gonna be the winning, as they say, strategy. Back to, and that was the most important thing of this so-called debate. Here's more.
In an exclusive KRON 4 report, a California Highway Patrol officer was recorded giving a roadside English proficiency test to a commercial truck driver. Let's take a look at the video.
And then do me a favor. Tell me what this sign means. So what does this mean? What is it telling you? What does this sign mean?
This part is very important because Javier Baccaria is going to try to claim that the gentleman knew or was indicating what the signs were, and it's clearly from the video he was not. He did not know what the signs are. People have families have died. Many individuals have died because California just gave out commercial truck driving 80,000-pound big rig driver's licenses to people who cannot read the traffic signs that they are supposed to abide by, so they don't tell us.
Video is captured following the U.S. Department of Transportation withholding $40 million in funding, saying California is the only state in the country that refuses to ensure big rig drivers can read road signs and communicate with law enforcement.
Mr. Becerra, we begin this round with you. Should the CHP be giving English proficiency tests to truck drivers? And if not, would you as governor push back against the Trump administration on this policy? You have 60 seconds.
I would definitely push back on the Trump administration on, again, a reckless policy. I would make sure that that officer understands that he cannot discriminate against any driver.
Here, Trump's a racist. Go stick it right up your ass, Becerra. You want people that you're supporting this ding dong, he's going to get you or your family possibly killed. Yeah, the officer, when you are a commercial driver, you're under a lot more rules and regulations, Javier Baccaria, than you are just a normal driver. And in fact, though, even as a normal driver, you should be able to identify the traffic signs as they are in America today, printed in English. And they're going to stay that way, stupid. It's not racist. We don't want to see people maimed, injured, and killed. Jesus freaking Christ. Man. The stupidity.
Without having a basis to do so. I understood a little bit of what that individual was trying to say. I couldn't see the signs, but
I kind of understood what the individual was saying. No, when you put a stop sign up, it should say stop sign, yield, yield. Speed limit, 55 miles an hour. Slow down, school zone. No hesitation. If you're a commercial truck driver, especially. No, well, I kind of understood making excuses for this. This guy, Baccaria, is freaking insane.
it certainly sounded like he was trying to describe what that particular sign was trying to represent.
No, it didn't. He's pointing at it and going boo, 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 boo. Interpret what he said, Baccaria. What sign was he indicating it was? You couldn't say, yeah. Oh, I kind of think it. Shut up. You're lying through your teeth. And anybody that believes that, and your family, or anyone you know gets injured, I don't want to hear one. I want to hear you cheerlead that the guy killed your family, killed your husband, killed your kid, or going to be a quadriplegic the rest of their life.
So we have to be very careful that we're not profiling consumers in California, drivers in California. It is against the law. And
it is against the law to operate an 80,000-pound truck, stupid, and not know how the rules and road. You have a big responsibility if you're doing that. And to try to turn the racism card, nobody. This guy should get negative 100,000 votes.
police officers, while they try to do the best job of keeping safety, have to understand they have to abide by the rules and treat everyone, every motorist, the same way. And so if that officer had some basis to be qualified, let's take a look at that. But let's not find that people are being discriminated against because of what they look like.
Nobody's discriminating because of what he looked like. I don't care what he looks like. I don't care what shade of brown tone his skin is, Baccaria. I don't care if he's a man, woman, whatever. And that's the only two there are, dingbat. The officer was saying, what's the sign, sonny boy? And if you can't identify him, you ain't driving this truck. Period. Frickin' end of story.
Is that officer asking everyone he pulls over?
No, not everyone's driving an 80,000-pound rig, you stupid.
To explain those road signs, or is he asking only people who look like me? And if he's doing...
See, there's only people that look like me. I don't care. I don't care what, who again. Again, vaya caramba. It's absolutely infuriating.
Sarah, we begin this round with you. Should the CHP be giving English proficiency tests to truck drivers? And if not, would you as governor push back against the Trump administration on this policy? You have 60 seconds.
I would definitely push back on the Trump administration on, again, a reckless policy.
Again, this guy is so... I had to replay that again. He is beyond ignorant. I mean, what the hell? We get Chad's.
What happened to drivers if they do fail? You have 60 seconds.
Well, we have to, first off, acknowledge that we actually do have rules and we actually do have laws. And if they are not abiding by those laws and California is giving them driver's licenses when they do not qualify for those driver's licenses and we're sending them out onto the streets, we also have seen several horrific accidents that were attributed to people that did not understand English or that could not comprehend the road signs that, or the street signs that they were supposed to be abiding by. So we don't know the context of this. This is what's super important, especially in law enforcement. You have to know the entire context of this entire stop and this entire video, not just the small section. But if he is verifying whether or not someone can read signs, my guess is he was stopped for violating a sign and he's trying to verify that he could. And let's stop with this whole racism thing and racial profiling and all of this garbage.
Yes, 1,111%. Like Sheriff Chad said. Come on. What's the context? Yeah, probably why the cop stopped him. He probably made a violation, ignoring the signs, didn't see it or whatever, and the cop wants to verify that he knew what the sign, or maybe he doesn't. That's part of the case when it goes and you get a ticket or they're pulling your commercial driver's license or your regular driver's license or anything else. And Sheriff Chad is exactly right. We got to stop this racist garbage that Javier Baccaria tried to inject. And that is killing our society. And we must, if we want any semblance of a society, we must reject that 111 freaking %. We get into the gas tax debate and all the other goody-goodies of that. And man, it's going to be one heck of a fun show. Yes, it is. Why are we giving me the... There we go. It's exasperating. Some of the understandings. We'll pitch back to this in a second. But another thing that's concerning me is the whole language, and you can't say this. And one thing I'm talking especially to the smarter half of the population, since you have adopted the F word as part of your lexicon, and is pervading throughout society, a driver at Port Royal Speedway in the 305 sprint car race who won said the F word 2 or 3 times in the interview. He was suspended for 1 year. He made a disparaging comment against the track. Nick Swingart, as you see on Flow Racing, you see him and the 1 year after the comments made in Victory Lane last Saturday night. We're going to play those, so if you're sensitive about the F word, tune it down for about a minute or so. And I want to see, I'll give my opinion or see what people think of this.
Up for contention. It was a really racy track. What happened there between you and Ken on that with like 4 laps to go?
Yeah, everyone's going to say I wrecked him, and, you know, I fucked up. We got into him there. But in all honesty, I got underneath him. He missed the bottom. We had a lap car there. I checked up for the lap car, got back to the throttle. And all you non-racing people are going to not understand this, but we run easy up shock. So the front end of the car jumps up when you get to the throttle. And as soon as I got back to the throttle, front end came up, and I got right in the side of Duke. I think we were both fighting for the same real estate, and unfortunately, Like I said, I fucked up. I drove in hard. I see an opening. And, I mean, hats off to Port Royal, but the track sucked. I mean, there wasn't much fucking racing going on. You know, announcers want to say it's a real racy track. Not really, but we made the best of what we had. I mean, this is definitely not how I want to win races. Nobody wants to win a race like this. And I'm going to get a lot of backlash on this, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. I won a race. We're on a barred motor thanks to Dustin Young.
So for that, he got suspended for a year. Now again, and especially I'm talking to the ladies, the smarter half of the population. If you don't want to hear this, if you don't want to be in the lexicon like it used to be, don't be throwing the word around or using it every third word like I hear a lot of you do. I mean, do you want to be like us in the retarded half of the population? Thought you were supposed to be better than us. But if that's going to be the pervasive part of the way it is acceptable to speak, then I don't see for just using the F word in the conversation. And again, it wasn't on regular TV, so there's no FCC fines. There's no law against it. It's on Flow Racing. They do a great job of covering racing. You know, I got a subscription to it. And the saying disparaging comments against the track, he said, you know, they gave it their best shot, but I guess it rained or whatever the conditions, and sometimes dirt track surfaces are crap. You got to race on, you know, the track's not really racy, or you can't throttle down, or it's tricky or slick, which it looked like to be me, and things like that are going to happen. You know, he said, I shouldn't have, you know, I apologized for that. We're going through that. Now, should he probably not use the word 3 times? Yeah. Does it warrant? I don't see where he criticized the track. He said, yeah, the track just sucked. Sometimes it does. He says it wasn't necessarily their fault. It was just conditions we had. We as drivers got to deal with it. You know, that it wasn't their fault. Him getting thumped for a year based on what our society allows today, that seems awful harsh, but you can put in everyone. I'd like to hear what other people have to think about that. You know, they stripped him of his prize money, stripped him of the victory, yada, yada, yada. Hey, you won the race, fair and square. You don't like his comments. You know, in the old days, they would fine you, you know, $100 or something at your local short track. Maybe a $5,000 or $10,000 fine if you're an IndyCar, NASCAR driver or something like that. Just to let you know, not to do that again. Again, I think it was an awful stiff penalty for that, especially based on the way society is going. I would think we shouldn't probably use those words in public like that. They are becoming so much part of our accepted language throughout daily life from almost everyone. I just disagree. And it takes the color out of the sport, and then people wonder why nobody wants to show up. You know, they did it to NASCAR. Look at the crowds, look at the TV ratings as they've made sure that drivers just say yes, ma'am, and no, sir, and please, may I. Well, compared to, crash them up, Tony Stewart.
40 seconds, 40 seconds.
And everything else. So we'll see on that. As Jesse said, we'll be joining the Mighty Met KMET here in a few seconds. We'll get into more of the so-called press conference debate, the California governor's race, and the impending doom. You think gas prices are high now? Holy cow. And that has to do a lot with that and everything else, but we shall see. We'll cover that in the next half hour of the show in this blockbuster edition.
5 seconds. Here we go.
And now today. IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the aforementioned AM band. Join our vast video audience on the Evil FB Network, YouTube. Check us out. IE Newswire, Roy Bleckert, subscribe, do all that good stuff. We covered the first part of Javier Baccaria trying to pull, right off the beginning, trying to pull the race card. Oh, the cops, he's being racist because he's the commercial truck driver, the cop, the CHP officer is trying to have him identify the traffic signs. You know, Baccaria, we don't want to be killed. I don't care what private parts are sitting in the center of your body. I don't care what shade of brown tone your skin is, or whatever. As Sheriff Chad ruefully pointed out, we got to stop this racist garbage. Baccaria should be getting 111,000% negative votes. And anybody, if you supported this, and he gets elected governor, and your family member, someone you know, or whomever your favorite salsa star or whatever, gets killed or injured, I want you to cheerlead it. Because that's what you're advocating. And that's what you're supporting, and that's what they're going to try to shove down California's throat with this Baccaria BS. To set it up, and they really, again, and I understand, Nikki Lorenzo, easy on the eyes, why she's got the job and all that. And I mean, she does a fairly good job in her Inside California Politics show. Frank Bradley, he does a morning show, and they were supposedly the moderators. Wait, they don't ask the proper, as we should say, questions, or the relevant, let's say that, relevant. This is from Mike Ariza in the California Globe. Mike Ariza, along with Mike Mischke, the USC professor that said, yeah, gas is going to $8 a gallon because we have no refineries, we're not drilling oil, yada, yada, yada. Mike Ariza recently, he had just retired, but he worked at the Benicia plant up there in Martinez, refinery plant that closed down. He wrote in the California Globe, California oil crisis, from military threat to mass starvation. President Trump opened up the, with the Iran war, opened up you don't have to have the flagships and all that, was sending them around, yada, yada, yada. Okay, Baccaria and Bonta and all that are screaming because it's President Trump and this and that. They scream because he opened up the Santa Barbara oil and they're trying to sue over that and stop that. We've said we got 50 military bases, and with these fuel, the military said, hey, if you cut the refiners out in California, all these expensive F-35s and aircraft and everything else we got, they're going to be sitting on the ground because if they don't run, if you have no fuel. On top of that, jet fuel's doubled. They're talking about maybe a 2 or 3 week supply, even on that. Even on diesel, we got such screwy refinery stuff, mandates on that we can't. We could, if they suspend whatever, the Jones Act or whatever it is, we could get gasoline from the other 49 states. We had to truck it in an emergency. But he's saying we basically got about a 2 or 3 week supply left. By about mid-May or that, we're going to be running out of gas in California because, one, we don't pump the vast oil reserves out of the ground, which we get 100%. We did up until about 1985. We pumped 100% of the oil. We refined it here in California, 100% of what we needed. And that's when we started on this we're on the glide path of this tutti frutti eco freak. We're all going to die of diesel smoke, and now we got a big freaking problem. So that we will get to more. So they said, well, the first question was, will you suspend the gas tax? So here it is from last night's Next Star debate. Here we go.
We cut the gas tax. You have 60 seconds.
Let me say that the reason that gasoline is so expensive, that our president, Donald Trump, has started an insane war in Iran and driven up the cost of gasoline for everybody in California. That has put $70 billion into the pockets of the oil companies who actually put him in the presidency. Californians are suffering across the board. The biggest problem in California is that the Californians can't afford to live here anymore. The answer on this is not to give up the gas tax, but actually to have a windfall profit tax on the oil companies who have been ripping us off for decades.
I don't care if he's worth more money than Elon Musk. You just heard some of the stupidest statements. First, Trump. Okay, Steyer, explain this. Drive down to Blythe, right at the Arizona-California border. The Colorado River separates it. You go one step, you're in California, the next you're in Arizona. $7 a gallon in California, in Blythe. You go across that line, the next station you hit 200 feet away, $4 a gallon. The gas came out of a refinery in the South Bay, in Torrance or El Segundo, California. Same refinery, same gas, $3 a gallon more. That is all taxes, practically. We're paying about $1 more a gallon than we should over the Trump zone. I will give you that. That will end at some point. But the 250 or so that nobody talks about, that I'm the only one that has accurately or close enough to accurately defined how much total government money is going for each gallon of gas, and that's about $2.50 a gallon. Prior to this latest increase, that was about half. Most of it to the state of California. Most of it because of tutti-frutti ding-a-lings like this. The next we have is a psycho chick, Katie Porter.
Disability is not a buzzword for me. It's been my life's work, sitting across from families who have been pushed into bankruptcy by bills they couldn't pay, helping families avoid foreclosure or eviction when they were cheated by subprime lenders. It is too expensive to live in California, and I get that. I'm a single mom of 3. I push a shopping cart and I fill up my minivan, which has nearly 180,000 miles on it. I absolutely feel these pressures, and I think we need to do.
And you were 100%, Katie. I don't know, would they lock your refrigerator or something? You look like you lost a lot of weight. But you're still a psycho chick. You were ground zero for pushing all these policies while you were an elected frickin' official. That is, raise the price of gas and raise the price of groceries far beyond anywhere else in the nation because of stupid, idiotic, nutcase government policies. And you know who agree with me, Katie? The young ladies who put the report at Moreno Valley from San Bernardino, Cal State San Bernardino. So shut the bleep up. Quit being absolutely stupid. Here's Mahan.
Ms. Porter, thank you. Mr. Mahan, you support temporarily suspending the gas tax. Some, including the candidates on the stage tonight, have called that proposal unserious. What's your response? You have 60 seconds.
Well, Nikki, Frank, it's great to be here with you this evening. I'm the only candidate on this stage who has called for suspending the gas tax and reforming it so it no longer is the most regressive tax in California that's putting an undue burden on working families like the one I grew up in. Look, I'm in this race because we deserve better answers. We deserve better answers than we've been getting from the other candidates on this stage. We don't need a billionaire who made his money in private prisons and oil and gas that he's now supposedly against.
Took a shot there at Steyer, but yeah, okay, buddy, let's figure it out. Almost $350 billion California budget. Highest of all time, only $8 billion of the gas tax. And even we suspend it, that's 2%. You know what, buddy, we should have roads paved on golden roads with marble sidewalks lined in diamonds for what we're paying. Fool, we have the worst roads ever, and we're paying the most amount of taxes and everything else, and the highest tax state in every deal, including your frickin' city of San Jose, you moron. Quit trying to blow smoke up our skirts. Javier the doofus Baccaria.
They need to get to work. They need to come home. The last thing they need to see is an infrastructure for roads and transportation that doesn't work. I remember when my parents would tell me the stories of when they came with $12 in their pocket. They had to make a life here. They needed to make sure California could work for them. Let's make sure Donald Trump is not starting reckless wars to keep the prices of gas.
Oh, shut the freaking bleep up. Donald Trump, who's trying to get the price of gas down overall in California, open up the oil and all that. And you stomped on the grave, if they're still alive, of your parents that had the opportunity in California because you as a congressman, you as Attorney General of California, you as HHS have suppressed the people at every opportunity and took that away from them. Took away the ability of anyone in California hardly to afford a house or anything you're griping about, you frickin' idiot. These absolute morons. Here's, hopefully, we'll get it, Sheriff Chad.
Want the total elimination of the gas tax. How would we fund roads and bridges? You have 60 seconds.
So funding roads and bridges is a fundamental responsibility of government. We need to get rid of the rest of all the waste, fraud, and the abuse of the rest of government, which all of the Democrat policies over the last 20 years, 30 years have created. We only have the highest gas price in the country because of Democrat policies that are absolutely destroying the oil industry, the automobile industry, and forcing those prices up, forcing our refineries out of the state, forcing our oil companies from drilling in our state. When you send oil, make it into gasoline and send it to across state lines and it miraculously becomes $2 cheaper, you know that your state is the problem. It is Democrat policies for the last 20, 30 years that are driving the cost of not only gasoline, but the cost of living in California up. We have the highest cost of living in the country because we have had one party, Democrat progressive rule for decades that is destroying this state.
111%. Finally, we get answers to first we're identifying the problem. Chad is identifying the problem. Guess where he probably got that little thing about taxes and all that and the gas prices and all that. This is where the difference. Blame Trump, this and that, No, it's not our fault.
Mr. Bianco, let me ask a clarification one more time. How would we fund roads and bridges if you eliminate the gas tax? You have 15 seconds.
We eliminate all of the waste, the fraud, and the abuse that's going on where our money is being spent now. The number one responsibility of government is public safety.
Guess where he got that from? You guys have heard me at the County Board of Supervisors when he's been down there. That's in the California Constitution. The people have declared, it's in the Constitution, that the number one priority of the citizens of California in the state of California is public safety.
Number two is infrastructure. And if you look at where California spends its money, infrastructure is way down the line. Don't say that the gas tax is funding our roads because we have the worst.
Yeah, $20 billion on the bullet train to nowhere. We could have built a 4-lane highway from San Francisco to LA for that kind of money. That's what he's pointing out. That's what should be pointing out. We have plenty of money. We should have every road, every quarter mile, that's every quarter block should be a 4-lane freaking freeway as much money as we pay over the years and today.
Worst roads in the entire country.
Mr. Bianco, thank you. Mr. Hilton, you support permanently cutting the gas tax in half and eliminating carbon climate policies. With the supermajority of Democrats in the legislature, how would you, as a Republican governor, make any of these changes into law? You have 60 seconds.
We have to make these changes because Californians are being crushed by the gas prices, by the gas tax. We have the highest gas tax in the country for the worst roads in the country. And across the board, we have the highest taxes for the worst results. And you know who's really suffering? It's working Californians. It's small businesses. Most of my career has been in business. I know what it's like to try and run a business. The costs that are being imposed on our businesses and on workers in California is just too much. And one way or another, all the Democrats here are part of this system that obviously isn't working. We need common sense solutions. We need practical solutions. Why are we importing oil from 7,500 miles away in Iraq rather than using the oil we have here in California?
Thank you, Steve Hilton. We are doing that, and I will answer the question for you. It's been the government tutti-frutti policies for over 50 years that is why AB 32, and he's right, the most regressive tax and all that, you're not going to replace the gas tax or anything else with the tax the rich billionaires, Tom Steyer. You're just pandering for frickin' votes. This is exactly what's wrong. They went through every issue like this. This was like, you're identifying the problem. We can, and we should, and we had the ability. A scant 40 years. 40 years ago, we were producing all the oil plus per day, per year, whatever measure you want. Every day, right here, pumping it out of the ground, refining it, delivering it to people, and at prices that people could afford. We weren't taxing them to death and making their lives miserable.
That's the kind of common sense change that, as governor, I will be there to persuade the legislature to do, because they, in the end, want to help Californians too.
And just to clarify the question again, how would you, as a Republican governor, make any of these changes into law with a supermajority of Democrats? 15 seconds.
The first point is that to open up California oil production doesn't need the legislature because it's through executive action. The way that they've been closing it down is through an agency of the executive branch called CalGEM, the California Department of Geologic and Energy Management. I would replace the people in there and give them a clear instruction to issue permits to our oil industry.
I will tell you this, Steve Hilton's the biggest policy geek up there. I mean, he does get into the details as he understands it and probably does, but the overall. And it went on this, you can take the other issues, vagrancy, homeless. This went on the whole thing. I wish and I hope the next ones they should just pick one topic or maybe two and just go through and get more in depth to show exactly what's going on. I get the soundbite part or what of that, but they really, when you only got 30 seconds or 15 seconds on rebuttal to do that, that rewards someone like myself who knows how, or who is very used to talking and has a lot of experience talking when the clock is on and you got to make a point, succinct point, in 30 seconds, a minute, or 2 minutes, or 3 minutes, or whatever you're given. And doing this gives an distinct advantage of somebody with the experience like me that knows how to summarize or make the impact in whatever time, in a small amount of time like that. You don't have time to really get in the nuts and the bolts or the geekiness like Steve Hilton does. And again, you need to have more of a perspective of what these cats are going to do. I hope they would break it up into more, this guy's going to take this subject, this one's going to be on this subject, or one or two in that, and then give them more time to interact and explain their positions. Porter's trying to tone down the psycho chick, which she did a good job in that debate. She didn't go completely nuts crazy, like get out of my effing shot, or allegedly dumping a boiling pot of potatoes on her husband's head, or all the other things she's known for. Tom Steyer with the crazy eyes. And look, what's with the white tennis shoes? That stood out like a sore thumb. More people commented on that. So be careful what you do in this stuff. More people commented on that. Steve Hilton, again, more policy-oriented, but Steve and Chad both did very well, in my opinion, on this. The other four, Baccaria especially, stood out, and Katie Porter to an extent, stood out, and Steyer, Mahan tried to cover it, as the racist, race-baiting, will say anything to get elected. We will cause chaos because we know if we cause chaos, we can control you. And that's what this stuff is all about. Again, was very grateful. Sheriff Chad mentioned top 2 in June. It's going to be Steve and Chad and the rest of those. That's even a public change in, I got to win, or it's got to be me or Steve against a Democrat. This has been a long journey. And again, when I came up with this a year ago, and everybody said I was crazy, laughed, never happened, yada, 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 to a year later, when it's down to crunch time, it's actually being introduced at the debate stage on that, and people are talking about it. And I will say this, the rats are getting more nervous every day that top 2 in June. And my analysis of this press conference / they call it a debate. It's not. It's more like a news conference, 30-second, 67-bit bite. It didn't do the Democrats any good. This is just going to keep their field scattered, which is what we want to do. Hopefully, Antonio Villaraigosa will get on the stage. And again, right now, if you got, those that hate Trump, never vote Republican, yada, 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 those of your friends, acquaintances, relatives that are doing that. At this point, I'm saying have them vote for Antonio Villaraigosa, because that will keep this field. All we got to do is hold the sucky 6 below that percentage that Steve and Chad get. And the Steve and Chad percentage is still evenly split between the center-right, freedom, liberty types. So overall, actually, I think this press conference / debate even helped strengthen top 2 in June, that Steve and Chad will be the 2 that advanced. I think they solidified their bases, which was already locked in. I think by the way they presented it, those 20 to 25%, depending on which polling you're looking at, is undecided. I think they will get at least half, if not more of that, if this continues to be the trajectory going forward if they continue to point out the utter failure our state has been in almost every public policy, from gas to groceries to roads, housing, vagrants. The overall quality of life just going down. People coming out of LA. We haven't even got to the lower enrollment in California schools and the mass exodus out. And that right there should tell you, why would anyone want to leave one of the most beautiful parts of the country in the entire world based on almost any measure you can make? The only way that can happen is just absolute destructive public policy. And that's what we suffered for 3 to 4 decades. And it's about time it is time, not about, it is time that we change that course. And we have the power to do it. Hopefully we do. Hopefully we get our thinking caps brains. Maybe as the thinking cap will keep our brains tightened up enough that we can ignore the noise and the threats and all that. And we do what's best for everyone. So we can all live. If you want the Alice in Wonderland or whatever fairy tale, live happily ever after, you and the smarter half of the population, that's how you do it. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to listen to some of us in the retarded half of the population, which I know upsets you very much, but hey, I didn't design this whole thing. It's your world. We're just living in it. That'll do it for today. Well, this week, I guess there's a no balls game tomorrow. But I guess mandatory you're back here in what? 95 hours? Until then, see ya.
All right, have a great night.
You got it.